Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all. Good evening, Zoomers. Hello, hello. Um, I'm Debbie George, one of your 6 Dharma leaders. And let's take a moment to stretch. You can stand up if you like. Might be nice. Just give yourself whatever you need to be comfortable. And now look around, remembering to just smile and acknowledge all these folks that supported you as you supported them in our practice together. Did you figure it out? So we don't know what's going on. It's not much. Okay. So I had technical difficulties. No smirking from the peanut gallery at home. There's someone who makes fun of me for that. I couldn't figure out how to, my computer wouldn't talk to my printer. They're having a problem. I didn't want to get in between, so I'm gonna try to use this and be everywhere. Please bear with me. So this talk is entitled Only Love Can End Hatred. No, it doesn't sound like fun. I will say that this is a difficult topic for me, and what I'm gonna share in the first bit, I just sat and wrote a couple weeks ago, and I thought, I'm gonna do this, and then maybe 3 weeks ago, a week later, I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna do something completely different. But then I talked with the other Dharma leaders, and they encouraged me, so here we are. This talk can feel like a killjoy message. I'm talking about the joy of hating. It's in the air these days, and it's certainly, if I'm honest, it's in me. It feels so good to be fully 100% justified in hating on the greedy, hateful people who are bent on destroying what has been sacred to us, a free society that's deeply flawed, but holds high values of liberty and justice for all. We were working on righting so many wrongs in the arena of discrimination, the environment, and education, to name a few, and all have come under the wrecking ball, being replaced by the opposite of the values we hold dear. The values of compassion, loving kindness, truth, and generosity are integral to walking this path as taught by the Buddha. Can't I hate with all my heart what is wrong and those who are doing the wrongs? I don't let out my hatred. If I don't let out my hatred, I'm afraid I'll hurt myself, trying to swallow it or even tamp it down. My blood pressure, stress hormones, disturbed sleep will impact my general health and well-being, etc. Surely there are exceptions to the rule of love thy neighbor. How can hating be so bad when sometimes it feels so right? Elected officials and their responsibilities to serving their constituents aside, and I won't say anything. There's a palpable sense of anger stirred up in the air. It's a fire being stoked, and it seems like it's growing bigger every day. Maybe I'm projecting, but I'm noticing more aggression on the roads, general impatience all around, and a greater sense of fear and negativity. I've noticed it in myself and being less patient with my husband and less tolerant of my friends' negative comments about the state of things. I fear that if we don't figure out how to be part of the solution, we'll be part of the problem. And this feels demanding and demoralizing. I wonder if the fear and disgust is infecting even our cherished relationships, as well as society as a whole. And it's coming from both sides, from all sides, All this has sent me to the Buddhist teachings on how to work with difficult mind states, to calmly discern a wise response to things, namely the Anapanasati teaching. It's a breathing exercise that offers helpful guidance in meeting this momentous time in the world. This teaching mirrors the Satipatthana Sutta on mindfulness, but uses contemplations with the breath as the anchor. Both teachings include 4 groups: the body, feelings, the mind, and Dharma wisdom. We will focus on the mind group tonight, using the breath, but I highly recommend this study of both suttas and all the groupings, all the groups, when you're ready. And I will commend to you these 2 wonderful scholarly books, but easy really to read. This one's not so easy, but it's fascinating. Satipatthana, The Direct Path to Realization by Bhikkhu Analayo. It's his dissertation. And Breath by Breath, The Liberating Practice of Insight Meditation, Larry Rosenberg. Both amazing books. From Larry's book on the Anapanasati Sutta, Breath by Breath, this book, he writes, the Buddha emphasizes over and over that we are enslaved to the mind. By being attached to its contents, we are propelled into actions that cause suffering for ourselves and others. The purpose of his teaching is to free us from this attachment, to master the mind. But you don't accomplish this by brute force. It is clear seeing that makes us guardians of the heart. End quote. Using mindfulness of breathing, the instructions are to train the mind through the doorways, mindfulness doorways of body feelings, the mind, and Dharma wisdom, those 4. We'll focus on the 3rd, the mind, but all aim to cut through confusion and disturbances of the mind. All 4 of these are really working on the mind and heart, which in this tradition can be used interchangeably, mind and heart. I don't usually read from my teaching. I usually just want to talk to you, but we'll practice seeing clearly the unwholesome, painful mind states rooted in, everybody want to yell it out to me? Greed, hatred, and delusion, the poisons that we are so rooted in our untrained mind. And we'll see their changing nature. This process eventually leads to compassion, a wholesome state of mind. And Sayadaw Tejaniya has this lovely quote: whatever you are experiencing in this moment is the right experience. Be happy there is knowing and awareness, as this in itself is already wholesome. The mind group involves each instruction. The mind group involves, I don't know what that means. Anyway, each instruction in the mind group begins with one trains oneself. And I love that reminder. So each of the four areas, the body, feelings, mind, and Dharma wisdom, have four contemplations. So it's 16 contemplations. We're going to look at the four from the mind group. Each one begins with one trains oneself. And the first is sensitive to the body. We breathe in. Sensitive to the mind. We breathe in. Sensitive to the mind. We breathe out. It's pointing to just becoming sensitive to what's present. Is there a lot of wanting? Is there aversion? Is there pushing away? Is there not wanting? Is there confusion? Scatteredness? Delusion? Some iteration of greed, hatred, or delusion might be present. And then the second, one trains oneself, gladdening the mind, I breathe in. Gladdening the mind, I breathe out. So we're invited in the second instruction to turn our heart and mind to things that uplift us. We all have people or beings in our life or situations that just uplift us. So we're invited to, or maybe thinking back to some moment of generosity that you had. Makes you happy. The third instruction is steadying the mind. One trains oneself, steadying the mind, I breathe in. Steadying the mind, I breathe out. So this is pointing to, we really can't work with mindfulness if the mind is unstable, unsteady. So breathing in, breathing out, we can see when we really hone in, the mind is becoming steady. And the fourth of these is liberating the mind. So one trains oneself. I love that we're reminded each time that this is a training. One trains oneself, liberating the mind. I breathe in, liberating the mind, I breathe out. What does that point to? Well, that as we get to know the workings of our mind, what's present in us, we're becoming free. There's an invitation to see that and see how it's changing. So the next contemplation, which is in the final group, is impermanence. It's noticing impermanence. So they all kind of lead to the next. But seeing that anger, frustration isn't static. It's not a state of being that we just are. When we stop, when we look, we see the constant flux and flow. And we can have more confidence in letting these energies pass through. And again, and before long, you remember when you go to sit, if you feel like you want to do the mindfulness of the mind, breathing with the mind, you sensitive to the mind, gladdening the mind, steadying, liberating, those are just four things that they kind of stick with you in a short time. So again, Larry Rosenberg, in time, as you see these mind states again and again, they lose their potency. It is not necessarily a problem to be visited by anger or craving or fear. You're fearful, and it's all right. It becomes easier to turn to these states and experience them directly, just as it has become easier to allow each breath to follow its own nature. He talks about the ancients, speaking of the sky that's beyond the clouds, some beautiful, some dark and threatening. Our thoughts, our emotions, these energies are like the clouds. We watch, we see, and we see them constantly changing. And we always keep this enduring message of the Buddha: hatred does not cease by hatred, only by love, and this is the eternal law. And I had an epiphany that I now understand this truth in terms of my relationship to my own mind. I always thought of it as hatred doesn't, and hatred, only love, as sort of me against what's outside of me. But it's also me with me. Hatred, hating my hatred, saying, I don't want to be a hateful, angry person, and hating on that. That's not going to create love. It's going to create more angst, more. So I now understand this in terms of my relationship, my own heart, mind and heart, and how this is step one to meeting others with kindness and love. If I hold my own hatred and anger with compassion, I see directly that eventually this leads me to love. Wow, for so long I understood it as, outside. Cradling my strong emotions as caring for a baby and seeing them change and pass. That's Thich Nhat Hanh. Cradle, be with it, invite it. It just needs to be seen, needs to be felt. So how? If you're noticing a lot of mental disturbance, consider using the mindfulness instructions. But first thing to do is establish a degree of mental calm with the in and out breath, or metta. You can practice metta, that's very grounding, or just stay with the breath until there's a sense of settling. And then open to the general flavor present in the mind, sensitive. So what is sort of the mind's state in general. And then you'll move to gladdening, and then continue breathing in and out, seeing the mind not in contention, gradually stabilizing and liberating. So all in looking with total acceptance at what's true. Also in daily life, consciously you might consider bringing examples of those imbued with goodness to gravitate toward wisdom and kindness in your heart that inspires you. So, and also be selective at how much negative news you allow, and feed your heart and mind these stories of the power of love to overcome hate. I'll give you some examples. How did Thich Nhat Hanh stand in the line of fire between his northern and southern Vietnamese brethren and say, stop, this makes no sense. Killing is not the answer. And he put his body, in line. The Dalai Lama famously says, I don't hate the Chinese for destroying my country. My religion is kindness. And how much good is he responsible for in the world? Jesus saying to his killers, forgive them, they know not what they do. And Dr. Martin Luther King changed so much, made such strides by studying the nonviolent practices from Gandhi. So I'll conclude with this. This was sent to me by my Dharma buddy last week. He sent me an Insight Timer quote and one woman's beautiful response to it. So the quote's an African proverb, and it's, I no longer ask the wind to be gentle. I no longer ask the wind to be gentle. And her response, I no longer ask the wind to be gentle. Let it come how it must. My becoming was never in the still air, but in the trembling, where I stayed, where I dug deeper, where I met the part of me that does not move. Thank you so much.